welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club with 4 race starts. We're going to start with our Category 4 riders, then 3, 2 and 1. Our riders lined up in yellow, that is our Category 1 riders. In green, our Category 2. In blue, Category 3. And Category 4 in red.
Further back, we've got a few riders off the back of the group completely. 12 seconds now off the back of that group. This is the final qualifier for November. We're going to run into the finals next week and, well, it's going to be really interesting. Look at the stretch on that Category 1 group already. There's a bit of a gap there forming to a couple of riders who have just missed that start.
Bremner is in there as well. In fact, here we go. Nicely in there. So Bremner and Paolo together. Madeira and Gill are at 2 seconds. They've just come through the sprint at 12.5k. Oh, look at them go again. It's like traffic lights flashing up. Warning, warning, warning. It is all on and the pressure is on. Look at the height we've gained.
Yeah.
So Madonna Degamashandi is on her way.
Yeah, she is indeed, as she continues to push, and she's pushing on at the front of this group.
Look at this. It is an absolutely blistering ride. She comes in to the finish here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. It's Michelle Gagnon who comes through to take the win. Qualifier number 3.
Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. We are here on the 26th of November for the monthly final, and it is going to be an absolute cracker. I am looking forward to the action. Joining me in the studio today is the one and only Matt Payne. Of course, I am Emma Martin, for those of you who haven't been listening before. Let's not forget that. But welcome, Matt.
Hi, it's good to be here. I'm actually quite pleased to be here because for those people who don't follow us on social media, I had a little bit of a bump on my bike a couple of days ago, and I'm now sat here a little bit bashed and bruised, but I'm going to take seat number 2, and Emma's going to be leading the show, which I'm quite looking forward to because it means I get to be even more silly than normal. And because I did have a little bit of a bump on my head, I can be as rubbish at maths as is physically possible.
Well, it is indeed true. He did take a bump on his bike. But today we are heading for the finals for the women's race to Colombia. We are going to the Paso Alto. Matt, take us through the course.
It's a great course because it really is a course of almost 2 halves in terms of time, although in terms of distance, we have the very flat run-in up to 21.9k. Bridges on the first part around the Amazonia Sprint and the Jungle Trek Sprint. We then go through the caverns in that almost Tolkien-esque bridge heading across through the Sangil Sprint and the Monpont Sprint up onto 2 climbs, the Medellin City climb, which is a second category climb, and then the final climb with the Bogota climb to come at the end, which is a category 4, but can be just as decisive as the first one. And it really is about being in the mix as you hit the first climb, staying in selection as you go over the top of the first climb, surviving the FRB, Emma's so-called named flat rolling bumpy, the now an official part of all MyWhoosh commentary vocabulary, and then on to that Bogota climb to finish. So going to be very interesting to see how the riders approach this, how aggressive they are. Sometimes it can be incredibly aggressive on the very flat bits. Sometimes it can be a steadier ride and more pace going into the climb.
Well, last time we were here, it was Hermansen, Bjarhed and Fur in the Category 1 race that sprinted in to the finish with just 0.4 of a second separating the 3 of them. So it is going to be a very competitive race today. You can see our riders down there in the start pens, the Category 1 jerseys, Category 2 in green, Category 3 in blue, and Category 4, our first starters today, in red. So our Category 4 riders, they are in the pens and waiting. Take us through the teams, Matt.
Yeah, we've got some great teams here. We've got Phoenix, the Petite Four, and the Chapeco team. And I have to say, very, very strong teams. People like Ruby Lloyd Flores in the Petite Four squad. In the Phoenix squad, you've got Kirsten, Paolo, Madeira, Sarasuk. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. Let's see who's going to take it out.
Well, we are down in the start pens. The seconds are ticking down. We're in with Maria Gill. Gill in that Petit 4 squad as away go Category 4 on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. This is the final for November, and we are up and away. So
really interesting, isn't it, Emma? I'm just watching this start go off and watching to see how everybody rides from the gun and looking at the power on the right-hand side of the screen relative to all these riders. And I have to say, I think this is a smart move. Not wind it up too fast here, because if you go like an absolute rocket here off from the start, you tend to suffer a little bit as you go over the bridges. I would be a little bit, I think, today, because it's a final, a little bit more circumspect and then kick out. But the riders are very different in terms of their personalities and how they ride, and that translates into how it is on the bike. And I mean, we've got such strong names and such strong teams. I think this is going to be a really competitive category. In terms of riders, in terms of positions, Emma, they are incredibly strong, aren't they? But we've got some particularly good riders, haven't we, in some of the teams?
Well, I think this category is going to be really interesting today, because a number of riders have progressed this month into the category 3. So it's leaving it a little bit wide open, and the teams that we saw take the win, Volcano and Superbass, last time are not evident, because it's a new group of riders, or a different group of riders with different teams. So for me today, Phoenix is strong. They've got Kirchner, Paolo, Madeira and Sarasuk, all who have taken top 5s this month. But the Petit Four squad, Ruby, Lloyd, Flores, Ospina, Franco and Gill, well, I think they are going to give them a really good run for their money. You know, Nikki Lloyd, she's had a 3rd and a 5th this month. Maria Gill, she's had 2 2nds and a 3rd. So I think this is really going to come down to probably the 3rd counter. Now, for those of you who haven't watched before, the team competition in the monthly final is decided by the top 3 riders in the team. Their time is added together to give an overall team time, and that is what decides the team classification. Now, it can be very, very close. Now, last month in October, it was 2 minutes 56 that separated the category 4 top 2 teams. But for example, in category 2, it was only 47 seconds.
It's very close. So when you add up the time that it takes to do the race winning time on this course, Emma, is usually around about what, an hour and 7, hour and 10, hour and 15. It's, you know, it varies depending on category, obviously. But you add the times together of 3 riders, and you're talking in excess of 3 hours. No matter what happens, pretty much. So that means you're going to be at least 3, potentially 4 hours, and yet it's still separated. It can be as little as seconds.
Yeah, completely nothing. Let's just go back to that, Matt. So last time the women were here in qualifier 3 in October, the winning time in category 1 was 1 hour and 10. The winning time in category 4 was 1 hour and 25. So that also gives you a little bit of perception around the different categories and the different times it takes them to race the same course. Now, category 4 is indeed the category that leaves the pen first. It leaves the pen 5 minutes before category 3. Category 3 leaves the pen 5 minutes before category 2. Then category 2, 5 minutes before category 1. So we get that staggered start. Now, there was a question on the YouTube feed last week about why the category 1 leader was 25th in the race field on the bottom right hand side of your screen, and that is because of that staggered start.
Yeah, so the race field at the moment, because they're on the race, you can see top right hand side of your screen. First of all, we have the bar, which is the elevation, because it's pancake flat. It's a flat line and making its way across there. At the moment, it's almost imperceptible any difference. Then you have the zone that the rider's riding in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you have the position 11 out of 55. You'll see on the right hand side of your screen that is riders who are riding. Left hand side of your screen, the riders in the pen. They are 35th, because they are basically the next riders to go.
Well, the next riders to go are our category 3 racers, the racers in the blue jerseys today. And 4 teams on the screen.
Yeah, the hub zone, we've got Team Purple, we've got Pumpkin Spice and the Cycling Warriors. Love that name, Cycling Warriors. In terms of riders, we've got Garcia Arias, Lopez Barker in the Warriors, Isaac Henao, Giuliano into the Spice team. But the hub zone, Taglon, Gerardo, Gracia, I think this could be really, really tight. And of course, Chantilly and Elsa in Team Purple. Real good mix, really good riders, We've got a great course. It's category 3, ready to roll. And here we go. We are underway. We have 35 kilometers and 537 meters of ascent with 5 sprints and those 2 categorized climbs as a snapshot on the riders as they make their way through. I think this could be very interesting. Bigger pack here as well, so more draft dynamics, particularly on this first section, which is flatter, as we've seen, top right-hand side of the screen, 0% gradient.
Well, 4 teams here today, and last month in the October final, it was Team Purple who took the win from Pumpkin Spice. Team Purple had 1st, 2nd and 4th over the line. Pumpkin Spice had 5th, 6th and 8th to give a time gap of 1 minute 3 seconds. Now it's going to be really interesting because this month we've seen some really great positioning from Team Pumpkin Spice. So Hino's had a 1st, Idzix had a 2nd and a 3rd, and Giuliano a 4th and a 5th. De Silva from Team Purple's had a 1st, Alzat's had a 3rd and a 4th, Gentili, she's had a 3rd, a 4th and a 5th, and Ospina's had a 2nd. So every team member in those 2 teams has had a top 5 race position this month.
In those teams, though, very interestingly, Pumpkin Spice have 3 riders in there. Team Purple have 4. Now, it's 3 riders to count. Having a spare rider is always good because, like any form of cycling, you can have issues.
Yeah,
I
you
should
can.
know, let's face it, after the week I've had. But you're not going to do what I did, hopefully, on your turbo trainer or on your static bike in the gym. One of the advantages of riding on MyWhoosh, which is where I'm going to be quite a lot in the next few weeks. But what can happen, because you can get dropouts, you can have the power cut, you can have Wi-Fi dropout. Any
you
of
can
those
have a
things,
puncher.
you can actually still have a punch. We've known people have that before racing. So having a spare counter is quite great. I think is really key, and it does make sense to have those riders. The maximum number is 5. That's 2 spare. But when you're like Pumpkin Spice, the pressure is on that little bit more on Natalia Idzix, probably Henao and Jackie Giuliano, because they all have to finish.
Yes, they do. They do all have to finish, and they do have to get over the line. And part and parcel of that teamwork is indeed what I like to call husbandry.
Husbandry, right?
Husbandry,
okay.
looking after yourself to get over the line.
It is, yes. It's looking after yourself. It's something that, as someone who has watched Emma race, she's absolutely rubbish at. To be honest, this is not practice what you preach from Emma. I'm going to get away with a lot more today.
That's why I know it's so important.
I'm going to get away with a lot more today with Emma, quite simply because I'm going to go pull the sympathy vote because I'm a bit bruised. But no, it is husbandry is key. Looking after yourself on the bike, looking after the bike, making sure that you drink correctly, you fuel up correctly, you have your gel at the right time, that you make sure that you're all going to be moving, you conserve energy when you don't need to expend it. And that's certainly happening here. 28 kilometers, kilometers an hour speed. We know these riders are capable of more, but you look at the group dynamic. They're across the road on the left of your screen. Right-hand side, starting to pull out a little bit. Here we've got Paolo just stretching it on the front here, starting to wind this up. We do see this from Cristobal Paolo. Starts to wind up more. Behind you can see everybody responding and the red chevrons kicking in down the screen, and that means that the pressure is starting to come on. They know that they don't want to let Paolo go because Emma, she is a rider who can take lots of, she can take time. She's done this before.
She can do indeed, and it's Sarasuk who's responding. And, I know all about husbandry. I ran across Hadrian's Wall in a weekend once, and hula hoops and Rocky Road. Well, down in Category 2, they're in the pen. They are waiting. They are warming up because those 18 riders in that start pen at the moment, in those green jerseys, those 3 teams are eyeing each other up.
The Pineapple Lumps, Grind My Gears, and Spicy Girls are our 3 teams in Category 2. We do have the 3 riders who are not in the teams. Grind My Gears with 5 riders, Pineapple Lumps with 5 riders, and Spicy Girls with 5 riders. So basically no numerical advantage. However, there's some incredibly strong riders in here. And with this course, we're looking for climbers. We're looking for people who can ascend well after a long flat run in.
Well, whilst they are turning their legs, waiting for those final seconds to tick down, it was Grind My Gears who took the team prize last month. Who's it going to be today? We are only going to find out once they cross the finish line. Category 2 are up and away on the MyWhoosh November final. They swing out of the start pen. Now, the pace is a little bit higher here today than the other two categories, but I'm looking to see how quickly the pace comes off of that fast start. At the moment, well, it is indeed backing off a little, but they're much faster start than the other two race categories today.
And the bunch size affects that. That is one of the things to remember. So category 2, bigger than category 3, which is bigger than category 4. Category 2 has more draft effect taking place within that group and on that group, and that means that aids the riders. It's always beneficial to have more riders in the group, particularly when you're riding on the flat, but it does mean you need to be in the group. But as you can see from the bottom left-hand side of your screen, those riders are all in together, and from a racing point of view, that satellite navigation view, that radar view on the bottom left-hand side is absolutely critical, because that gives you advance warning of people coming up behind, of you coming up on groups in front, and that can all cause confusion. Because remember, of course, that as we move through the course towards we get to towards the finish of the race, we're going to see these groups coming together, and that is when there's a difference. Now, attack on the front, really early kick down the road here by Elevate, and this is dangerous. This is, and never mind red chevrons, we want red flashing lights going off on the screen, fireworks, we want the whole lot, because look, this is not a steady start at all. We've got Barragan and Vink up the road, two very strong riders, very quickly joined here by Rona, by Hadlock Zabala. They're not going to let a sneaky move like that go. That was so early. It was not quite kilometre zero, but it was close. But it's continuing here. And this could set the scene for the rest of the race, couldn't it?
Well, it's really, really interesting tactics from Ella Vink here today. You know, this is a flat section. We've pretty much got a flat run, other than the bridges, until 21.9 kilometres when that Medlin City climb starts. What do you think of these tactics so far, Matt? It's quite surprising, I think.
Surprising is a very diplomatic way of putting it, because I think it's very wasteful.
Oh, there's a word.
Sorry, I'm going to apologise now, Ella, if you are feeling full of beans today and you're watching this live. I think it's wasteful. I would be looking at a real smart move, and I would look to go where there are any hills, and I know that's very predictable, or any slight rise. If you try and go now, and we've seen a break up here because we've gone through some of the bridges with category 4, if you're going to go through the bridges, go through the sprints. Going from the gun is difficult, because you've got to put so much more power down. You hide behind a rider, you can save 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. In a massive bunch, you know, I've been racing in groups of 200-300. When you're in that kind of size volume of riders, you are sat there and you are doing very little work because of the draft effect. And by doing that, you are going to gain so much advantage.
Well,
and to break away so hard, now is the time to go here on category 4, because you've broken the group on the earlier bridges. You can see that bottom left-hand side. It's like dot to dot on the course of red dots of the different groups. The leading group are in the centre here, and at the moment, as they go onto this bridge, they've just gone through the sprint. We've got Mara Madeira in the green skin suit sprint leader, but I would be looking to take that advantage through now and really make people suffer. That's what we're seeing from Sarasuk at the moment in category 4. She's on the front, putting everybody in the red. In category 3, left-hand side at the bottom, left-hand side in the blue. Category 3, well underway, but it's a fast-moving group. Category 2 are underway. They are, again, another big, quick group with that initial attack. But category 1, they're going to be our next group of riders.
Well, they are indeed. In category 1 and down in that start pen, we have got 20 riders and 5 teams in the yellow jerseys today.
We've got Team Platina, Team Europe, Spartan Obstacles, the Croissant Crew, and Risky Biscuits, all of which are strong. Here, though, we're looking for climbers, and for me, it's a mix. People like Celine Columbi in the Spartan Obstacles crew, Kate Tredin of the Croissant Crew, could be Chiara Donny in terms of the Risky Biscuits, Lisa Manson for Platinus or Anna Emmerich in Team Europe. I mean, it is so wide open, this race category.
Well, last month in the final, it was Spartan Obstacles from Risky Biscuits. It's going to be interesting to see if that happens again.
Well, here we go. It's time to put the pressure on the pedals. It's time to pull on those bars and go, 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 because we are away. Mina Coniston and the rider that we are in with at the moment, as this group makes its way out of the pens. All 4 groups underway here on the November finals of the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. 35 kilometres, 537 metres of ascent, 5 sprints, 2 categorised climbs, and lots of competitors looking to take away an amazing prize fund in our individual and our team competition. And a little bit later on in the show, we will bring you details of what is up for stake, up for grabs for these riders. As we head out, though, this group at the moment a little bit more circumspect potentially than Category 2, because although the speed is not much lower, they are capable of higher speeds because they are the riders in Category 1. But it looks like everybody's gone out clear here. Are we going to see an early attack from Category 1, or do you think they're too cynical here, Emma? Is there any particular rider for you stands out? There isn't for me for doing a long lone break.
Well, I think this is going to be a really, really tactical race, because for me in this category, seconds are going to count in the team competition, and breakaways will need to think about how much of a gap they have got on the group, or riders drops need to think how fast they can push on, because it's going to be so key. So last month, Spartan Obstacles had 1st, 4th and 6th. Risky Biscuits had 2nd, 3rd and 11th. But Catherine Fuhr from Risky Biscuits was coming back from an operation. She's had 3 wins this month, so absolutely returned to form very quickly, which has been fantastic to see. BR Heads had a 4th, but they've also got Constant and Donny in the group, and Constant is again also on return from injury and getting stronger and stronger, so it's going to be really interesting to see what they can do. Spartan Obstacles, every member of the Spartan Obstacles team, Columbi, Erevek, Manshandi and Kasani, have all had at least one top 5 this month, if not more. It's going to be a real battle today, so it's going to be interesting to see what tactics do come out in this race. And let's not forget those other teams. You know, the Croissant crew. Tridin has come up from Category 2, Jenny Daniel and Sophie Giovanni. That's a good squad. Team Europe, Lam Kong from Hong Kong, Sarah London and Anna Embring. Team Platina, Engstrom, Hermansen and Larson. For me, that's a good squad too.
It is, and there are individual riders like Calvin Bassani Martinez who could also go into the mix and take away some of those counting positions, put people in trouble, or maybe help other people in other teams. You don't know what is going to happen until it's on the road. Category 2 looking as energetic as ever after that initial long range kilometre 0 attack, pretty much coming from Ella Vick. Angel Hadlock at the front of the race in Category 2 in the mix here. One of our regular riders in the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, somebody who has been with us a long time and seen the evolution of the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club to where we're at now with our 4 race categories, with the staggered starts and of course the amazing graphics and places out on course. As you can see, all 4 groups underway. The riders first list down the course is 9.2 kilometres. In second position in terms of leaders is Category 3. They're at 7k covered. 4.9 now, 5 kilometres covered Category 2. And Category 1, well, they are at 2 kilometres already. Now, I did mention that we would bring you details of the prize money in the show here today. So let's take a look at what the riders are fighting out for in terms of monetary prizes here, as well, of course, as the bragging rights of being the best rider on MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club in the finals.
In November.
That's priceless, that is. In November, indeed. So we have 4 categories. We have 4 prize lists. We are now on the finals. So we're on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see that we have our standard individual prizes ranging from 2,160 for first in terms of AD down to 432 AD for 5th. But adding to that, in addition, the team competition, 10,800 AED down to 1,080 AED from 1st down to 5th. Now, when we move from Category 4 to Category 3, that then gives us the increase. So you can see that what was first prize is now third prize in terms of individual prizes, and we move up because the first prize is now second in the team competition. You get 18,000 AED, that's 6,000 each for the 3 counters, or it might be that you've got 5 counters in there and you're going to share that out.
Well, for the eagle-eyed amongst you who have been with us since the top of the show, you'll know there's only 3 teams in Category 4 and 3 teams in Category 3. Ladies, I suggest you get onto MyWhoosh and get registered for the Sunday Race Club, because you've got to be in it to win it, and we could do with a few more riders if they want to pick up that money. Because
well, there's money to be had.
There is
and
indeed.
Matt Smithson in the podcast, in the virtual Velo podcast, said we want to pay that prize money out. So jump on board and get that done.
And
so let's jump from Category 3 to Category 2 as we move on, because we are jumping up once again. As you can see, the teams coming up into the first position are going to be sharing out a whopping 30,000 AED as we go up on to the top here. And don't forget, of course, that that goes down to 3,000 for 5th. We've got 6,000 AED for first place and 1,200 for 5th in the individual competition. And if you think that's big, well, let's show you Category 1, because Category 1 are the riders at the top of the tree. They're the riders who have earned the right to be in the competition for the top places. So let's take you through these properly. 5th place individually, 2,000 AED. 4th place, 4,000 AED. 3rd place, 6,000 AED. 2nd place, 8,000 AED, and for 1st place in this individual classification, a huge 10,000 AED. In the team competition, and if you're up there in the individual classification, you're almost certainly going to be up there in the team classification. 5,000 for 5th, 10,000 for 4th, 20,000 for 3rd, 30,000 for 2nd, and a absolutely stupendous 50,000 AED for a win in Category 1 in the team competition. Now, it's back. Emma's here. She might be in the lead chair, but we cannot exchange places in terms of Emma's exchange to Matt's exchange, because I am rubbish at maths. However, we have Professor Emma Martin in the chair in terms of Emma's exchange. So let's go over to Emma's exchange and let's bring you what that 10,000 AED for the individual winning is worth, somewhere out and around the globe, to one of our other riders. Emma, where are we going to go?
Well, we are heading to Australia, because at the moment on my screen I've got the results of the first sprint, and currently Category 1 haven't been through, but Ella Vink, one of our Australasia, our Antipodean riders, should I say, is currently leading that through. So I decided I'd go for Australian dollars. But because it is the final, I am going to convert the 50,000 AED from the team competition into Australian dollars. And that today on my little exchange rate comes in at 20,686 Australian dollars for 50,000 AED, which is first place for the first team in Category 1.
So if the first team were from Australia and decided to spend it in Australian dollars, it would be 20,686 Australian dollars for that team win. And if you've got 3 members on that team all taking that away, that is a huge amount of money each, in addition to the individual competition.
Yeah, it is indeed. So as we mentioned, now is a great time to join MyWhoosh, to join the Sunday Race Club, because we start all over again next week for the first qualifier in December. And let's remember, it's not all about the money. It's also about riding and racing with a community of riders, regardless of your category. You know, there is something for everybody here. The Category 1 we're looking at the moment, these are world-class elite esports racers. But we also have Category 2, Category 3 and Category 4. There is something for everybody on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. not only can you bring your own friends along to ride, but you can also make friends on the platform. This team competition at the end of every month brings groups of people together from around the world. A lot of these riders did not know each other before they started riding on the MyWhoosh platform.
Yep, and that is one of the key things. And remember, of course, there are lots of rides going off around the world, or in the various worlds, and round the clock on the MyWhoosh platform. So if you want to find out more, make sure you go on to www.mywhoosh.com. On there, you can see how to download, what you need to have, the minimum specs for your computers. There has been a big development in terms of the availability. Now, if you're going to jump on and race, there is a minimum standard for that. But in terms of just riding, much more accessible now. So if you just want to go on and ride and get that social feel, there has been also the change. So we now have 2 worlds, so it concentrates more riders into those worlds. So it's a rotating world now, and it brings more riders together in there, and that's more chances to make great friends. I mean, I've got lots of friends I've made just on esports.
I know I've got friends I've made that I've never ever met in real life, but I've known them and I chat to them regularly. But one of the other questions that MyWhoosh regularly get asked, and if you follow the MyWhoosh Facebook pages, you'll have seen this question asked many times, is when is Apple TV coming? And I understand from Matt Smithson in some of his responses to that, it's going to be the first quarter of next year.
It is. Everyone thinks it sounds really simple to change the platform from one operating system to another, or one device to another. But I've been let into some of the secrets behind the scenes by some friends who work in the business, and they have told me it's far more complicated. They can send a man to the moon easier than they could to change it over. It's almost right from scratch. So thank you for your patience if you're waiting for it to go on to Apple TV. But don't forget, you can order from an Apple device to your big screen, so you can run it on your standard device on your Apple phone if you've got one, and then mirror it up and just send it on your big screen that way.
But I am loving the fact now with the more recent downloads, the ability for more and more people to join as the specs become, I want to say easier, but that's probably not the right word. But talking
more accessible.
More accessible, that is the right phrase. Well, talking about easier, nothing's easy at the moment because that's the result of the Amazonia Sprint. And you can see Ella Vink, Category 2, going through the quickest there in 18.7 seconds. But take a look at that, 3.4 watts per kilo, 2.9 watts per kilo. Nobody was really sprinting.
If anybody was, Myra Madeira, Gina Di Grazia, riders in category 4 and 3 respectively, but we do have all 4 categories in the top 9 riders, separated by 1.38 of a second. For me, it shows the aggression of the riders in category 2. They're up at the top, but a really good snapshot. Maybe we should sort of keep that and use that as a lecture point. Well, for the how to ride MyWhoosh and how to see what's happening.
Well, those segments really do give us a snapshot into the differences between the 4 race categories and how the 4 different race categories are racing the same course. And often the tactics within the 4 squads are very different in terms of the races as they unfold. Well, this category 1 race, as it's unfolding at the moment at 7.5 kilometers into this race, they are still one big pack and they are still moving very comfortably. It's a little bit different in category 4. We saw a breakaway of 7 riders going clear. They've now got 1.5 minutes on the rest of the field. They are 14.1 kilometers into this race, and it's interesting here. We've got Navarez, we've got Lloyd, we've got Gill, we've got Kirchner, Paolo, Madeira and Sarasuk. All 4 riders from Team Phoenix, 2 riders from Petit 4 and 1 rider from the Chapeco team.
Yep, bit of a mix there, but I think it'd be very interesting to watch what happens when they hit the climb, because they're clearly the strongest riders to be able to go clear, stay clear on the course, approaching what is 15k, so well on the way through the 35k, but remember they don't hit the climb until 21.9 kilometers. Now in with the riders that are on the bridge by the side of the waterfalls here in the Amazonian part of the race, as they head out over the gorge here. You can see we're just on the edge between the mountains and the flatlands, so the bridges going over the gorge give us those gradients. They go up to 8%, they drop back down again. The speed is there, the pace is on, but at the moment, as they come up at 8.2 kilometers, they are absolutely motoring, and the speed is pretty high, but it doesn't look to me like anybody is really struggling here, Emma.
Well, one of the things I've just saw coming through that segment, which was a lovely piece of technique, one of the riders at the back of the group utilised the steering function and came out to the left of the group, clear out of the draft, and was enabled them to push through into the front of the pack very, very quickly without any bother around the draft in the pack. Really nice use of that steering function.
It is, and it's really, I love the fact Emma's using it to stay there. I'd be using it to get, if you're on the front and you're making life difficult, so you don't want to just give one person an easy ride, you want to mix it up. Now, as we go through the Jungle Trek sprint here, the riders go through, and at the moment it certainly looks to me like that is going to be another mix in here. Myra Madera of Category 4 in second place, Kekkonen of Category 2 top spot with Category 2 in fourth and fifth, Embring in there in third place. But at the moment, certainly looks to me like there is a real mix. Interestingly, again, 1.412, so it's 1.38 separated the top 9 on the Amazonia sprint. On the Jungle Trek sprint, 1.4 seconds separating the top 9. Pretty similar. Very similar heart rates, very similar powers, very similar power to weight ratio, so a real mix. Now, when you go through the sprints, you get points. It's 5 points, 4, 3, 2, and 1 for first, second, third, fourth, and fifth places. The rider with the most points in each of our categories is awarded the green skin suit. So don't think that this is a Category 2 rider in the green. It's not. It's green shorts and green jersey. And that means Gina De Grazia is the rider who's amassed the most points in her category. Ella Vink in Category 2 exchanges the green jersey for the whole of the green skin suit. But look at what's happening here.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's interesting to see, you can now see, we were talking earlier about these split starts. On the bottom left of each of the screens in front of you, you can see the blue Category 3 riders now going through the back of the red Category 4 field, and the green Category 2 riders going through the back of the blue dot Category 3 field. So you can see on that satellite navigation image that graphic on both of those two screens in front of you, the progression of those two race fields. You can also see we've got a group leading the Category 3 race, and we've got a group leading the Category 2 race, and it's looking like those are slightly bigger than the 7 riders leading the front of the Category 4 race.
And at the moment, it certainly looks to me like this is going to be a very interesting run into the tunnels for Category 2. They're coming up on the heels of the riders in front from Category 3. That's Tangilon, and it's going to be Garcia, who are both very good riders. And I think both riders, Tangilon and Garcia, could well jump in with the Category 2 riders here. But they are going to have the ramp that's on the boardwalk through the tunnels to contend with. So they're going to need to have a little bit more power there, maybe to jump on than they maybe have wanted, depending on the timing of this catch.
Well, it's interesting to see what does happen here, and that is part and parcel of these staggered starts. But Hadlock, Kekkonen, Vink, Tanglian, these riders in here at the moment. So let's just have a little quick check. So we've got Smithers, we've got Vink, we've got Svardstrom, we've got Walkenhurst, we've got Rona, we've got Kekkonen, we've got Barragan, all in this Category 2 group. Gianti is there as well. Gianti, well, great riding this month, had a 3rd place in the competition in one of the qualifying races, but this is a strong leading group in the Category 2 race.
Yeah, I think these riders here, they know the measure of each other. They know that if you're in here at this point, that you've made the first selection and you've not been distanced by the flatlands. If you've not been distanced by the flat sections, now you're not unlikely to be distanced on the flat parts of the course again. We're just on this little riser, and as you can see, the Category 2 pack are shedding the riders in Category 3 because although it doesn't look much, it's 3%. Now these are real gradients. If you go right outside and you ride on 3% gradient, you're going to know about it. you do the same here. It's not fake speed. You know, the speeds are almost identical to the same speed for your watts per kilo for your power than you will get when you're riding outdoors. So it's not a feel-good speed. It's a real speed. And that means that when we hit the gradients, our Category 3 riders, because these are dynamic categories, because people are being checked on every single race on the way through, we are then finding that they are in the correct categories, because we would expect Category 2 to distance riders in Category 3 as they come through onto a climb. Now, on the right hand side of your screen, rather than the left hand side of your screen, you can see that we have our Category 3 riders catching Category 4, and they are now on the way out on the flat. That means that it's much easier to stay with the group, because you can use the draft. That draft benefit has greater effect on downhill and on the flat bits because it's fast than it does on the uphill. When you're going uphill, that gravity, that pure power to weight is absolutely critical. And you can see the power to weight ratio of the riders in real time on the right hand side of your screen, as well as on the top of the screen for the rider we are watching. So Degracia at the moment rolling around about the 2.5 to 3 watts per kilo marker, sitting in that group, depending on whether she's on the front or the back. If you haven't seen it before, if you've not used the platform and the user interface, very simple. White is in the wind, green is good. White's in the wind, green is good. So when the numbers are green, it means you are hiding behind somebody else and they are doing more work than you are, because you are able to benefit from the draft effect that is created. You can break that draft effect by using the steering. I mentioned it before. For me, it's a very aggressive tactic, but it is a fantastic race tactic. By being able to break the draft of the rider who is with you, you can then stop them from taking shelter. So you wouldn't do that if it was your teammate, for example. You'd want to bring your teammate with you. But if you are being shadowed by a rider who is not your teammate, then you want to be going across the road now. The moment the group isn't going fast enough to put the riders in one long line. So wherever you go, somebody's going to benefit. However, once the pressure is on, that's when the steering effect is better utilized, because you have a thinner pack. That means that you can get away from the other riders and you can stop them sitting on your draft. Until he's hugging the left-hand side here, you can see the riders starting to move across to the left. That means that they're going to get into the draft if they go into the green behind, which is good. But draft benefit really pays biggest dividends, flat, downhill, and of course when the pressure is on, that's when it's really going to tell. Now, that's what we're seeing here. We have got the riders in a fast-moving pack in Category 2. They're winding it up on the way out of the tunnels. They've done that fast downhill, and this is a quick section here, but it looks like basically everybody is together from Category 2. They've not detached anybody. However, they have detached the riders in Category 3.
Well, I'm not sure about that, you know, Matt, about how many they have got rid of. I think we do actually.
Emma's been doing maths.
I do. I think we've got a number of riders out.
It's not the same as the race start, but no. But it's. I think I didn't see anybody go off the back of the group through the tunnel.
Well, I think we've got 12 riders left in this Category 2 group. I think we've got Svartström, Rico, Rona, Walkenhurst, Smithers, Kokkonen, Holweiler, Vink, Gianti, Esdale, Garcia and Barragan.
Okay. I trust your judgment on this. You were doing the counting, I wasn't.
You know, it's tricky.
There's a reason I don't do the maths.
You know, I think we've got a couple of riders dropped, but I do think we've got all of the teams have at least 3 riders in this leading group still in Category 2. I can say that with certainty.
Okay. Do you fancy doing the same for Category 1?
I can have a look.
Go on, this could be entertaining. Here we go. So,
I don't think we've lost anybody in Category 1.
The amazing team behind the scenes. We've got to say a big I'm going to say it now mid-show. Massive thank you to the guys behind the scenes at MyWhoosh. Not just for the guys who made the game, who produced the racing, who do the teams who produce the graphics and the artwork, but the team who actually bring you the show, because they have to try and keep track of 4 races simultaneously whilst controlling all the tech and trying to keep us under some level of control, coming out to you in at the right level, the right sound. So a massive thank you to them. And of course, they are watching the racing like we are, and they're excited by the racing just like we are. We know that because we get to the end of the show. We'll have a post-race discussion about how good
that's
it was.
true, isn't it? Because what I do like is literally most of the time, the second the show goes off air, the first thing the production team say to us is, "Wow, what a good race!"
And that is brilliant because that's what we want. MyWhoosh is passionate about esports and about cycling, and that comes through. We can say that it's not exactly a skip, but we know this because we work with them, and it is an absolute pleasure to work with them. I've got to say big thank you to them for bringing the action and watching. So, Emma, now that I've talked about that, have you done the maths? Do you end up thinking about the racing again?
I did. I was trying to
do some maths.
If we run, if we ran to the bottom of the race field, we could take a little look and see. But I don't think we've lost anybody. If we have lost anybody, we've lost 1 or 2 riders from that Category 1 pack, and that is it.
And I'm seeing all the names that we were mentioning, people like Asani, Bjarhe Koistinen, Donny, Celine, Columbia in there, Shandy's in there, Truding's in there. Yeah, it's I'm not seeing. There's nobody here that springs to mind and going, I haven't seen X or I haven't seen Y. So looking good to me that this group is together. But I think if you're a Category 1 rider, you're not going to want to attack on the way in. You're not going to want to attack on the flat section. You're maybe going to make it pressurized on the climbs, but on the sprints over the bridges. But it's the climbs that are going to do the damage. And remember, that comes at 21.9k. Now, as you can see, none of our teams are quite there yet. The first riders to hit the climb will be the riders in Category 4 on the right-hand side of your screen, with Myra Madeira, the leader of the sprint competition at the moment, just with a little bit of a gap to Paolo Kirchner Lloyd in there. So going to be very interesting to see how they get on. It looks like Navarra in there, Gilly's in there as well, Sarasuk in there. Real big group, isn't it?
7 riders in that Category 4 leading group, all 4 riders from the Phoenix. Petit 4 have got 2 and Chapeko have got 1. That group still very happy, it seems, to tap along together, and I think that Category 4 race is going to be decided now. Well, it will get decided on that final climb. The final 2 climbs. Let's not forget the first of our climbs today, the first climb, the Category 2 climb that comes at just shy of 22 kilometres in the race, is the steepest climb of the day. Its average gradient is 5.9%, and it does get close to 10 in places. The second climb, the Category 4 climb, which will take our riders into the finish, it's got an average gradient of 2.9%. For me, it's not necessarily where we see the breakaways happen. I think they happen more often on that first Category 2 climb.
Yeah, there's a selection made of the contenders, and that's where it goes through. Now, you just saw the riders going through the Sandgirl Sprint in Category 1, and they're very noticeable by their absence. The pace of our Category 1 riders, they're basically stopping for a quick Colombian coffee on the way through. They could have had a coffee on the way through, because the first rider through is in 15th place. That was 14th. That was Engstrom. Engstrom and Bjarhe, their heart rates are not exactly high. They're not exactly pushing on at big numbers. I think that group is taking it easy. Now, on your screens, Category 4 are about to hit the climb. This is the polka dot banner on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Underneath the banner they go, and this is the start of the climb, and already we're seeing a pressure being put on here by Cristobal Paolo. She's squeezing here at near to 4, but a response from Madeira, then Gill, then Sarasuk, Lloyd also in contention, Navarra also pushing. It looks to me like Kirchner is in the mix as well still. Nobody going off the back. But just going back to your point, Emma, on this climb, that it's where we see breakaways. I'm not sure I dispute. Should we have an argument?
No.
Should we have a discussion?
We don't argue on the commentary.
Ooh.
We discuss and debate.
So let's discuss and debate. I don't think this climb is one where we see a breakaway. This is a climb where we see attritional reduction in the group sizes.
Oh,
there you go.
I disagree with you.
So you think people attack off the front, and that's what makes the difference? And it's not the riders being distanced. I'm not saying they don't attack, but what I'm saying is it's not the attack that pulls one clear. It's the riders that come off the back.
Well, I was about to say, I think we were about to see an attack off the front from Paolo there. We got 5 watts per kilo, but she's picked back up again, you know. But so currently just around 4.3. Now, for me, this is interesting because Paolo is up, down on her power at the moment. Not a concerted effort to break away, but just perhaps a preferred style on this climb. Gill is there pulling it together. Myra Madeira, Sarasuk, Lloyd, Kirchner, they are still here. There's a bit of a gap back now, about 3 seconds back to Kirchner. So it's starting to be a stretch on the group. And it is Navarez who is the rider who is being distanced the most at the moment, 6 seconds back.
And this is what I mean. Thank you very much for proving my point. Category 4. I owe you all an ice cream. The riders on the front, the pressure goes on, but it's not a full-on 8 watts per kilo, eyeballs out attack, because we're just too far out on the first of these climbs on the Medellin City climb. This is about putting pressure on and waiting for it to snap people behind, to distance people at the back.
Yeah,
it's not an attack.
There's over 12 kilometers to the finish line still.
Does that mean that I can't win? It's not an argument. I've proven my point. It's always about winning.
Well, no, because
I've proven my point in this discussion and debate.
Well, I don't know about that because we've only got one of the 4 race categories on this climb at the moment. And the climb is not over now. Coming into the climb is category 3. You can see the polka dot banner in front of them signifying the start of the Medellin City climb. The category 3 riders have one category 4 rider just in the mix there at the moment, taking a tow. I would not expect to see that rider sticking in that group for much longer, but at last count, category 3 had 10 riders in this group, so 10 riders going into the bottom of this climb together. Let's see how many category 3 riders come out at the top.
And whether they attack or whether they are distance, we will see. Now, category 1 on the left of the screen, going into the Mompox City Sprint, absolutely flying at the moment and looking good as they go through that sprint. But again, I don't think we're going to see them contesting this. This is a steady
They're on a
ride.
steady pace. Category 1, they have 19 riders in that leading group,
and
in
that
category
tells
1.
you that
they are
it's
all
not
still together.
out.
Nobody has been dropped, and you can see there they are indeed nowhere near the top 10. In fact, when I look on my screen, they are down post 26th and down. So Svardström, Rona from category 2. Myra Madeira, she does like to stretch her legs in a sprint, does Madeira. We regularly see that from her. She's a rider who really likes to stretch her legs. Sanchez, Holweiler, Barragan, Montoya, Hadlock and Walkenhurst, all from category 2. It's not a huge pace other than the riders at the front, 26 seconds going through for Svardström, but for me, that's almost from the back of the group to the front of the group. So really interesting.
Yeah, Myra Madeira definitely stretching the legs, does like to do that. And I'll be brutally honest, I think it's a really good tactic. I'm liking Myra Madeira's way of using the sprints to stretch your legs, because the first hill of the day, this is one for my dad who's just actually left us in the studio, so the journey back to the UK. My dad always used to tell me when I was younger that the way that when you hit the first hill of the day was always the worst. Always the worst. Now, on this course, it's flat and there's a big hill. That's the first climb. So how do you wake your legs up before you hit that climb, which is so decisive, whether it's attritional or attacking? Let's have a look at this again. So you can't count little bumps. If we look at the left-hand side of the screen, it's little pimples, it's a little bump, it's a little raise, it's a little flat platform. The first hill is the first climb, the Medellin City climb. It's long, it's 5.5k long. If you go into that with your legs still asleep because you just rolled along the bottom, I personally, and I think my dad is right, don't tell him I said that, the climb itself, it's going to be terrible. You're going to be just locked up when you hit it. You need those legs to be moving and you need to be ready to put an effort in. Myra Madeira is using those sprints to stretch your legs. brilliant tactic, and I think that for me shows that she knows what she's doing on this. She's getting ready for the fact that you've got this climb coming up, and you're using the sprints to do so, and you get the bragging rights of the sprints.
Can I just ask a question? Because I know that your dad still rides a bike. How old is your dad?
80. Oh, now you're asking me. 85.
There you go. And I know he still rides bike very, very regularly, doesn't he?
He does. He still rides his bike at 85, and he still goes on the bike indoors and outdoors on the same day. He does double days still.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Well, everybody,
absolute
we
legend.
can only hope we are going to be riding double days in our 80s, but it can be done, and there is proof. Cycling is a lifelong passion and a
we
lifelong
have people on MyWhoosh of all ages.
We do indeed.
We do, because we do our research. We don't just rock up and jump on the mics. Because we do our research, because we look at what our riders are doing. We know that we have riders in their 50s, their 60s. We have riders racing in their teens.
We do indeed.
That is a massive spread, and that's one of the great things about esports and MyWhoosh. We have riders of all ages. Whether or not they want to go up the Paso Alto, well, that's up to them. I mean, you know, that's why it's great to see such a wide range of rides going out with the teams, the big groups going out. Now, as we make our way around the circuit, you can see all 4 of our groups on the screen. You can see by the gradient, the only set of riders not to hit the climb are the Category 1 riders who, let's be brutally honest about this, have gone for a Sunday spin to the cafe, or in this case, they've gone for a Sunday spin until they hit the base of the climb, and it's all going to happen in the last part of today's race.
I think what's really interesting with Category 4 is they've gone from 7 to 3. So Gil, Madeira and Paolo, the only 3 riders able to stay together as they head up the climb. They've now got a 40-second gap on Nikki Lloyd. This is going to be really interesting because the time gaps today are going to determine that team competition, but there's a race really starting to open up there in Category 4. In Category 3, well, that is still a very large group. They have not been on that climb for long. It has not done a huge amount of damage there. I can see on the bottom left-hand side of that Category 3 screen a couple of riders distanced off the group, but let's remember there was a lot of riders. There was more than 10 riders in that group when they hit the base of the climb, and well, they are still motoring together. Category 2 is doing a little bit of damage. There's some stretch on that group already. They're only at 23.1 kilometers, so they've only really done just over a kilometer on that climb, and it's doing damage and stretching the group. Category 1, they've not yet seen that polka dot banner to signify the start of the climb, and that pack, well, 19 riders are going to go into that climb together.
Yeah, very different as the riders have made their way up here. Now, going back to what you've got on these, you said about these groups here, Emma. Category 4 on the right-hand side of your screen here. We see Paolo on the front. She had a gap. It was almost 3-4 seconds. It gets pulled back. Maria Gil goes on the front. Then we get to see Paolo. Then we see Madeira. Those 3 are yo-yoing. They're not really, I don't think, working together. They're just the 3 strongest riders left out of that group, and the rest have been shared further back. Category 1 is a massive pack, and that's more, it's similar to Category 2 almost, isn't it? Because it's a big pack going in, and Category 3, another big pack. But Category 1, remember, is the top of the tree in terms of the categories. Category 4, 3, 2, and 1, ascending in terms of pathway, ability, power, and it's Category 1 that are going to hit the climb. This is the start of the second category climb, the Medellin City climb, 3.5 kilometers of ascent, gaining 105 meters. This will take us right up until we hit the suspension bridge into the top of the Medellin City, and then we're on to the Bogota climb, which will take us through. And the flat bumpy section, well, flat rolling bumpy is what it is, but this is where the selection is made. We've seen it happen in Category 4. We've seen it starting to take effect on the rest, but this now, I think, is about putting the pressure on. This is about set the pace of the race, dictate the pace to everybody else, be decisive here, and you can strike a blow that people won't recover from.
Yeah, well, I think what viewers need to remember is in this Category 1 race field, we have world-class esports riders who regularly finish in the top 20 in the World Championships for esports. So what you are watching is the cream of the cream. They have very different backgrounds. We've got backgrounds from skating, we've got backgrounds from triathlon, we've got backgrounds from road racing, from mountain biking, all coming into the mix here. But these are indeed world-class esports riders. So the types of powers and the length of time you see them putting the power down, don't forget that in Category 1.
Yeah, and if you're watching this thinking, oh, Category 1 are amazingly strong, I could never be up there. Our riders do progress. We've seen riders move through the categories, moving from 4-3-2 right up to Category 1. So don't think it can't be done. There's lots of training plans on MyWhoosh specifically to address particular things in your riding style. Now, if you are not a great climber, the old adage of train your weaknesses and race to your strengths. So you got to train the weak bits. If climbing is your weak bit, on long, draggy, boring as anything climbs.
Oh, well, there you go. Matt's insiding what he thinks.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Listen, I've suffered up here with some of the riders on the Team Recce on MyWhoosh. I know how hard this thing is. This climb, both these climbs today actually are quite long. They're not the longest. It's not like we're doing a 15k climb, but they feel long because they are very consistent in terms of gradient. But if you need to work on that, jump on MyWhoosh, pick the training plan which will address that. Train your weaknesses, but you race to your strengths. Now, this is where, if you are a climber, you're on your home ground. You've pootled around the rest of it. You've sat in the bunch doing absolutely naff all. Jump on board now and use this to your advantage. You've only got one climb of 3.5k and another climb of what is 5.5k. You've got to make it. You've got to make it work.
Well, talk about making it work. Is 5 riders in Category 2 because they have broken away from the rest of the field. We had around 12 to 13 riders come into the bottom of this climb together in Category 2. We've now got 5 riders. So Hadlock, Walkenhurst, Janti, Rona and Svardström. She says, I'm just taking a little look. Garcia is now 50 seconds back. So these riders pushing on. Rico, is 10 seconds back on the group, the closest Category 2 rider. So 5 riders now clear.
And in here, we are missing some of the big names. Earlier on, whilst we were watching the multiple scenes, I was watching them and I saw Monica Rona really putting in a great effort. She really started to push, and that is really key to be setting the pace. She's not one of our long-serving riders. She's one of our relatively newer riders, but she's really making the racing work for her now. As you can see, we've got Gentili on your screens in this pack, but this group are about to be caught by the Category 2. So Category 2 leaders are about to catch the Category 3 leaders on the road at the moment. They're not far away. They're coming up behind them. And I think it's starting to take its toll. We see another rider now being distanced out of this group, pushes back in. But when riders start losing the wheel, and anybody who has raced or ridden in a group with their friends and the pressure has really been on, you'll know what it's like. You try and you get dropped, so then you go on, you lose attention because you're really under pressure. You lose that impetus. That's what's happening. And then you get a group come through like this. You get caught and a fast group come through. You know somebody's going to try and go with them, and you know you want it to be you. Is it going to be Rona who's going to be able to go with them as they go up there with the leaders? She is. So the Category 2 riders are pretty much all through. However, the Category 3 riders don't seem to have responded here, Emma.
And I think the Category 2 riders, by the power the Category 2 riders are putting out going past this group, they don't want them to go with them either. They don't want the mess and the confusion of having Category 3 riders mixed into the group. They want to keep pushing on. So those 5 riders in Category 2. Now, interesting, there's a reason I think why they want to push on, because the 5 riders, Svardström and Rona, are 2 individual riders. So there's actually only 3 team riders in that Category 2 leading pack. Hadlock and Walkenhurst are from Grind My Gears, and Gianti is from Pineapple Lumps. Now, this is all about pushing on and getting the biggest amount of time gap possible. Why are you laughing?
Sorry, I can't help it when you say the words Pineapple Lumps.
Well, that's what it says.
I know.
The team name is Pineapple Lumps. I always thought they were pineapple chunks, not pineapple lumps.
Yeah.
Lumps of pineapple or chunks of pineapple.
Exactly. It just makes me smile.
Oh,
It's
well,
great.
that's good. Well, in which case, Lytton Vink, Mabin Gianti, and
Thank you for
Estelle
the team name. Made me smile.
have indeed made Matt smile today. Thank you very much. He has had a little tumble on his bike.
Yep.
He needs all the laughing he can get, and every time he
Not-
laughs,
don't
I
laugh
think
too
it
hard.
hurts.
Yeah, it does a bit. So, let's get back to the race. Never mind my preference with pineapple chunks or lumps. So you make the way
Slices.
up the. Oh, don't get into pineapple. Just get a whole pineapple and eat it as fresh as possible. Get as much nutrition from it as possible. I had some fantastic pineapple in the UAE when I was down
Did
there
you?
working on the urban world championships. Yes,
Excellent.
it was brilliant, really, really nice, and it was really refreshing too. Anyway, enough of my travel tips. Let's get back to the racing. Category 2 and Category 1 on your screen. Category 1 left-hand side of your screen. Category 2 right-hand side. Slightly more aggressive in Category 2 at the moment, with those leading riders setting a pace that they want. It is taking its toll at the moment. The rider at the back is Svadstrom, who's just given a little bit of ground here and needs to stay attentive on this climb. Very difficult, particularly if you're wanting to drink or you want to take on board fuel on the climb. Not always the best option, but it might be that that's when you need to do it. Meanwhile, Category 1, we're starting to see flurries of attacks. We're starting to see riders being distanced. Left-hand side of your screen. At the bottom left, you can see that there are yellow dots behind our leading group. If you imagine that as a circular radar map, we are looking with the group that we're looking at in dead center of that. Behind, there is a mix of riders, and riders being broken. You can see now Lisa Hermansen at the back of this group, kicking out the saddle to stay with the group. Come on, Lisa, you've got to dig in here. You can't give up on this. Engstrom is behind here, and Hermansen and Engstrom of Team Platini are on the same squad. Is she waiting for Engstrom here? She had a problem here. The two riders are together here. Now, Engstrom and Hermansen are together. And I know your teammates, guys, but you need to get with that group in front. We are currently at 24.7k. We're approaching 25k of 35 kilometers of racing. Now, there is definitely great morale to be had with riding with your teammate. It will spur you onwards, but there is a limit to what that will do.
And you know what's interesting is Engstrom has had a 3rd and 2/4 this month, so she hasn't finished outside the top 5 because we've only had 3 qualifiers. So interesting to see that she's now 14 seconds back
and counting. And I think we do often caveat performances on esports and on any racing with the fact that riders will be at different points in their race program, in their cyclocross racing through the season. Now, it doesn't matter what cycling discipline you're in. If you're in cyclocross, there are riders taking a break mid-season right now. You will see riders racing particular series. You will see riders not on it, and you'll see other riders absolutely peaking right now to make the most of the changing race fields. So, very interested to see that. Now, Category 1 working the way up here, just on the way through, picking up riders in Category 2 and passing them. This leading group that was incredibly big now looks to me like that is going to be 6 riders strong. Have you got details of who's in there, Emma?
Well, we can see at the moment it's Busoni, Columbi, Fua, Manshandi, Biarhead and Donny. So strong riders here. Kasani and Larson now 6 seconds back.
And I'm surprised Kasani has gone. That was a rider who I had on my sort of list of riders. Koistunen's gone. Another rider who expected to be up in the mix to at least the flat rolling bumpy section. This is a very tough day at the office.
Yeah,
and I think in part that's because it was so easy coming in and then so hard when you hit the climb. And that transition, some riders transition well. You see it on Grand Tours, and you
Well,
see it in the UAE Tour.
I think the interesting bit here is that we've got 2 riders from Spartan Obstacles who, if you remember, I said finished first last month. So Columbia and Manshandi are still in here. But we've got 3 riders from Risky Biscuits who finished second last month to Spartan Obstacles, because Donny, Biarhead and Fua are all in this group.
And that means that at the moment the advantage is with that Risky Biscuits team at the moment on the climb, because they have the strength in depth.
And can I just say, it's fabulous to see Chiara Donny back and mixing it up in the front of this Category 1 race field.
Yes, unreservedly yes. That's not because it's not yes. It's a yes, and it's great to see that she's racing. She's got a racing spirit there. I know she's been out racing. She's had a really interesting season on the road. I think she's a rider with great potential for the future in a number of cycling disciplines. But I think it'll be very interesting to see how she deals with this winter, because mixing up the road and the mountain bike and going on to a winter of MyWhoosh really is tough to go all year round. And I think that's the one thing our riders need to remember. It's you know,
I think
you should be racing a long time.
I think our riders are well aware of what it is all about. If you want to put a 12-month racing program together, putting a 12-month racing program together is, if you want to stay on MyWhoosh and perform every week in, week out. Well,
some riders do.
Well, you know, you still have waves, I think, of performance. Well,
Yes.
Rona at the moment, Hadlock, Svardström, Walkenhurst and Gianti, those are the riders leading Category 2 at the moment, as they are making their way up towards the leaders on the road. They were the first riders to start today in our Category 4 race field. Paolo and Madeira. Maria Gill is in there as well. 3 riders leading Category 4, just now being caught by the riders leading Category 2.
And we are close to the top of this climb here. So if these riders in Category 4 can squeeze some power down and try and stay with the Category 2 leaders. Remember, the Category 2 leaders have already gone through and past Category 3 leaders. They're up to the Category 4 leaders. If they can stay in there, they're going to get a massive advantage going into that flat, rolling, bumpy section, the FRB section that comes up after the top of the climb. That is a big ask, but not impossible of riders of the class that we see up here in Category 4 and in Category 3. The rider making the most of this is Paolo. She's in here, and at the moment, Gill and Madeira are now distanced by a number of seconds. It's only single digits, but
and
it can be decisive.
We have seen riders come back on the flat bumpy section who have just been distanced by 1 or 2 seconds. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Madeira and Gill can get back onto Paolo.
Paolo's just lost contact, hasn't she?
Well, she has indeed, and actually that gap is going out. Well, it's not going out, because if you take a look, it's 2 to 3 seconds. I think those 3 will come back together again once they go underneath this polka dot banner. But going underneath the polka dot banner first is indeed going to be the Category 2 leaders. Now, 4 riders going through here: Gianti, Rona, Svardström and Walkenhurst. Hadlock 4 seconds back. On the left-hand side of your screen are Category 1 riders. Well, it's Columbi and Bassoni, Fua and Donny who are pushing on. Manshandi now 2 seconds back, but she's pushing. Is she going to be able to stay with this group?
Oh, it's going to be so close now. Madonna Dega Mashandi has had a great month on MyWhoosh. She really is a rider who's come into form over the last probably 6 weeks or so, looking very strong, but she's got to squeeze. Does not want to lose contact. Again, the Category 1 leaders coming up towards the top of the climb here, and that you can get back on again, but the effort to get back on in the FRB, in the flat rolling bumpy section, it can be huge. Get your pacing right, get the momentum right. We see that from certain riders. They ride the platform, they ride the courses, and they know where you can make time. It's all very well being the strongest rider, but you need to be smart too. And by checking out the courses, by riding on the platform, jump onto those group rides, get engaged with the group rides, because that will tell you how it rides in a group, and you can then judge where to go, where to squeeze, where to put the pace down, where it takes effect, coming up behind another group. As we go through here, big group of Category 3 riders being passed by the Category 1. I think that's Category 3 leaders, in
yes,
fact,
it is
with
indeed.
Idzik, Alzate and co. being passed here by the Category 1 leaders. And the Category 3 rider trying to go with them is Natalia Idzik. We saw a big kick from her.
Yeah.
Is she going to use this smart
She's
move there? Look at
rider.
that.
Idzik has had a second and a third this month. She's on form for that pumpkin spice team, and now she's going into the flat rolly bumpy section. It is possible that she could stay with this group through that section, and that kick, that push, that trying to behave as though that was the ultimate finishing line of the race could well see her go to the finish line of the race first in that Category 3 ride.
What a move. That was very, very smart. Now, Madana Degan-Mishandi has got to try and get on here. She will want to be back in touch. Remember, the Spartan Obstacles will be looking for a team win. At the moment, they are a bit on the back foot here. The team from Risky Biscuits, well, they look like they have the upper hand at the moment. And you can see that in the times coming in on your screens here. Donny in there, as well as Fua. So while going through then you got Columbia going through for Spartan Obstacles, Busoni, one of our individual riders. Then you got Minshandi coming through afterwards, but 15 seconds down nearly on the leader through there with the fastest time. Risky Biscuits rider Marlon Biarhead in 7th. We've got another Spartan Obstacle in 8th. Nelly Larson with Team Platina jumping in between Minshandi and the riders behind. So very interesting times up there. Yeah. I think that is going to be very, very telling. In terms of the overall victory, though, do not take it as a given. Riders can blow their socks off on this last time. Yes.
Well, socks can indeed be blown off, but I'm looking at Busoni. I don't think she's actually got any socks on there on her avatar. But whether the avatars are wearing socks or not, what that means is that you do have to manage your pace, because we do have another climb to come. But at the moment, Columbia, Fua and Busoni, they've got 1 second on Donny. So Donny coming back onto that group. I don't think she's going to get dropped off on this section. I think we're going to see a leading group of 4 riders in this Category 1 race go into the bottom of the second climb together, but they're already working their way up into the top 10 overall on this race today. And let's just remember, they started 15 minutes behind Category 4, 10 minutes behind Category 3 and 5 minutes behind Category 2. And it's Category 2 who are now the leaders on the road. Monica Rona is pushing on. Anna Svardström is there just 1 second back with Hannah Gianti. Julia Walkenhurst is there. So these 4 riders now, they've broken Angel Hadlock. She's 43 seconds back.
4 riders in Category 2, as Emma's just said. 4 riders in Category 1, as you said a little earlier. All together, those it's 4 and 4. 2 groups of 4 leading the categories 2 and 1. This is going to be critical, how the riders deal with the run into the climb. They can't afford to put too much energy in because they need it for the climb. They can't afford to put too little in and get dropped in a moment's inattention because of the rolling nature of the terrain. You've got to be reactive to that. You've got to be fluid. You've got to have that suplex. You can see that these riders coming through, we're now seeing the change in jerseys. We're seeing polka dot jerseys joining the green skin suits of our sprint riders, the polka dot jerseys for the points. And remember, this is only one of 2 climbs. It's not like we saw in some of our qualifiers in Belgium where there were multiple point scoring opportunities, 4 or 5 climbs. Now that you are into the Paso Alto, there are 2 climbs. We've had one at the front of both categories of categories 2 and 1. It's 4 riders each. Interestingly, though, we are seeing Elisabetta Rico of Category 2 sitting in with the riders in Category 1, and she will be gaining time on the riders in front because of this. Very good move by her. Racing smart, learning to race the platform in categories 4, 3, 2 and 1. It changes as you go up, but some core skills are there, and jumping on a rider's wheel that's faster, if you can hold it, it's an absolutely core skill.
Well, the one I'm looking at the moment is Manshandi, because she's been distanced from this leading group of 4, but she's pushing on strongly. She's riding at 4.4 watts per kilo. The challenge she's got is she doesn't have the draft of the group. She's a lone rider trying to catch a group who, while she's got teammates in that group, and just double checking, yes, she has indeed got a teammate in Selena Columbi in that group, but the group's still pushing on. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Manshandi can get back. It's 20 seconds to the group. I think that's it now, and I think that group are going to go away.
And you've got that battle as well in between here, because Columbia is now caught, and she has to keep pushing. You know, you've got to keep pushing. Really interesting that on this list of riders through the sprint that comes on the flat rolling bumpy section, we've got all 4 types of jerseys from every single category, and that's reflective of the fact that we've got riders pushing on, and it's the riders really that are chasing more than the riders at the front that are putting the fastest times in. Because it's kind of like now or never. If you don't get on now, you're not going to get on the climb. And in fact, the best time to come to the group is when it hits the base of the climb. So you want to be within touching distance when the leaders are on that climb, so that you can push through, carry more momentum, and get right onto their heels.
Yeah, and it was indeed, as Matt says, Myra Madera going through that the fastest. But Nelly Larson, who is chasing behind Manshandi in Category 1, pushing on Hannah Gianti in Category 2. Manshandi, the rider we were watching, push on to catch the leading group of 4 in that race. Alzat from Category 3, Svardsson from Category 2. And what we were just watching on our screen is the Category 1 leaders going through the top of the first climb.
Yeah, they're going really, really well here. I'm really impressed by the pace they're putting on. By Roberta Bassoni here.
I did just say the top of the first climb, and actually what I meant was the bottom and the start of the second climb.
I knew what you meant.
I know. I don't quite know why those words came out of my mouth.
I'm allowed to do things like that. I've had a bang on the head or 2.
That's true.
Okay, back to what I was saying. Roberta Bassoni here on the way, doing a really, really good ride. She's in some exalted company. Celine Columbi. We know Celine can climb. She's an absolutely phenomenal climber. We've got Catherine Fua, a rider who's an amazing all-rounder, who is now an amazing climber, who worked on that to be able to do that. You've got Chiara Donny, a climbing specialist in here. Bassoni is holding her own in here comfortably, and she is the relative newcomer to MyWhoosh, and I'm showing that she's learned the platform very, very quick. New this month, and she's right up in the mix. She's in the fight for position to take away those prizes. You saw them earlier on. If you're just joining us on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club live, please do have a listen back, a watch back to the show if you want any details on the racing. When people come to us and talk to us on the way through, the riders are asking questions. Quite often, to be honest, if you watch the show, you'd know the answers, because we try and give you as much information. But if there's something we've missed, if there's something you want to know, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Jump on the show, get in touch on social media, get in touch with the team at MyWhoosh. Now, MyWhoosh are very simple on social media. It's MyWhoosh on Instagram and Facebook. It's my_whoosh on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can get hold of Emma. It's at Biking Emma on Instagram, and you can get hold of me at your local A&E, or of course you can do it on social media, which I much rather prefer, and that is at Matt Fix the Pain. That is on Instagram, Facebook, Strava, MyWhoosh, whatever. Matt Fix the Pain. So Matt Fix the Pain for me. It's at Biking Emma for Emma, and of course MyWhoosh for MyWhoosh. Please do get in touch. If you've got questions, just ask. We'd love to get, give you the information, because if you're asking it, there's probably somebody else thinking exactly the same who wants to know that information.
That is very true. So one of the things that it is worthwhile mentioning is that this Category 4 group are pushing on Columbi, Donny, Bassoni and Fua. Now, in terms of the team competition...
Category 1.
Oh, sorry. Did I just say Category 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your numbers are all over the place.
I'm going to go and dive under the desk and sort of shake my head a bit and see if I can come back out and actually know what I'm talking about.
So I'll lead her on the road. Tell you what, I'll try to do some talking for you. I've got Monica Roder on the front with Hannah Giannetti behind, and Hannah Walkerhurst in there with Anna Schwarzstrom as well. So at the moment, the leaders on the road, the very front of the race, at the moment at 33.1 of 35 kilometres, Rona on her own, being chased by 3 riders, Schwarzstrom, Giannetti and Walkenhurst. Angel Hadlock is behind, and is just being caught by the leaders in Category 1. You can see that on the left-hand side of your screen. So the front of the race is the right-hand side. The chasing group behind are now Category 1 riders with Angel Hadlock in there of Category 2. Or was in there, because no sooner did I say it, the commentator's girl struck, and out of the backside, Jill Hadlock goes. This is where you've got to squeeze.
Oh, they're pushing on now.
They are pushing, and the numbers are starting to go up. So if you look at the right-hand side of your screen, look at the power-to-weight ratio of these riders. It is a critical racing number. I'm a great believer, and I could be very controversial and say that anybody who doesn't think that power-to-weight ratio in esports racing is important isn't an esports racer, and they haven't raced. They might have done other roles, but they don't race, because you need that number. That is the critical number. That is all about when you race, when you ride. If I go ride outdoors, I get to see the riders I'm racing. I know whether I'm racing against somebody who's lighter than me, who's more powerful than me. The only way you know that on esports, and that's part of esports, integral part of riding on the game, is power to weight. Well, look at the power to weight ratios. Look at the watts coming out. Celine Colombi in the red there, kicking at 6.1 watts per kilo to stay on the wheel of Bassoni, who's really winding it up on the left of your screen. They are trying to put Fua under pressure. They're trying to put Donny under pressure. They're all together at the moment. Right-hand side of your screen, you've got Rona continuing this. They are still chasing behind her. They are at 33.8k, 33.5k. That is the riders in Category 1. They are separated by literally only a few hundred meters on the road at the moment. They are coming quick behind. But I'd say something, this is going to be close, because we have not got far to go.
Well, we don't have far to go, but for me, technique, momentum and timing are all part and parcel of the mix, as well as power and watts per kilo, because you've got to put it out at the right point in time, and you've got to put it down, and Fua is putting it down at the moment. She's come to the fore in this Category 1 race, quickly closed down by Colombi, who goes up and over the top. They are now coming into the top 5, but ahead of them there are 4 riders on the road. They are the leaders in the Category 2 race. Rona, Gianti, Walkenhurst and Svardström continue to push up the mountain. They do not have far to go. They've got 800 meters until they see the finish line. The Category 1 riders, well, they have 1 kilometer to go.
This is going to come down. I think it's going to be an 8-up sprint pretty much as they come through now. Bassoni chasing on to the back of the group of riders. But the leading group in Category 1 are fractured. There is a gap. You've got Colombi for Bassoni, and then you've got Donny. Donny now has gone from the group. He's down to 4 riders in 3 riders in Category 1. Right-hand side of your screen, it's Category 2. The leaders on the road, Giannatti, Svardström, Walkenhurst and Rona. Who's going to be? Rona is on an absolutely breakthrough right here. Can she take the overall victory and be first over the line as well? She's got her work cut out. They're less than 200 meters behind. Remember, the banner, the polka dot banner that Category 1 are approaching, it is only 500 meters from there to the finishing line. It gives us a snapshot on the race, but it doesn't give us our race result. That comes at the MyWhoosh banner at the finish, and it's Rona who's kicking. Rona who's going with 300 meters, less than 300 meters to go, but they've answered her. Look at this. She's been answered by Giannetti. She's been answered by Walkenhurst. She's been answered by Svardström, but she's going to go again now. Giannetti is gone. Has she got the timing right? The banner is just around this left-hand bend. But look at this, another kick. And Walkenhurst, who we've not seen on the front, puts a humongous thing, 8 watts per kilo from Walkenhurst. Giannetti is trying to chase. Can she bring her down? They're not going to do it. Julia Walkenhurst takes victory on the finals of the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club for November. What a ride, what timing. Here comes Category 1. It's going to be Catherine Fua. Welcome back to the finals, to the top step. Your Category 1 winner, Catherine Fua. Celine Colombi coming through behind, and then Bassoni.
Well, that was one quick race in Colombia, because the winning time from Catherine Fua, 1:07. Absolutely fantastic from Fua, from Columbi, from Bassoni, as we watch Chiara Donny come up and over the line. The second place rider from the Risky Biscuits coming in that team competition. Category 1, really strong racing. We're in with Manshandi, who is looking like she's going to be the next through. But Fua in 1 hour and 7 minutes. Columbi in 2. Roberta Bassoni in 3, Chiara Donny in 4, taking the win in Category 2, Julia Walkenhurst from Gianatti, from Rona and from Svardstrom. That has been some great racing today.
Absolutely loved it. Fantastic action, brilliant tactics from some brilliant riders. Please, 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 let's do the same again next month. That sounds great to me.
Well, I'll tell you something. If you want to join the women's race next month, get on to mywhoosh.com. You can find me at Biking Emma on Instagram. It's been an absolute pleasure putting words to the action in that women's final today. Where can we find you, Matt?
You can find me at Matt Fixer Pain across social media and on MyWhoosh as well. And you're likely to find me on there. Maybe not this week.
Well, we're going to do that all over again because the men's final is about to come up. So stay with us for that. In the meantime, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to the team behind the scenes at MyWhoosh for putting that together. Thanks to our bike riders for giving us phenomenal racing all month. Stay safe. Enjoy your riding. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.